there everybody, how are you doing? We're on Tuesday. It's hard to remember what the days are these days. We've been doing all the things from let me order my thoughts. We've been doing all the orders from over the weekend. We have nearly 60, which is incredible. Hi Lindy Lou, how are you doing? Haven't seen you in ages, at least a week. How is everybody? Hi Anne, hi Helen. We've been working our way through all the orders. You've done us proud. You've kept us in business for another week or two. So today we are doing a machine needle cover organizer thingy. One of those things that just pops up and then you try and reinvent the wheel. So we have, I have to make sure I don't burn myself. How is everybody? Are you abroad, Nikki, or are you home? Hi Taryn and Kate. How are you? I'm not going to keep saying hello to everybody because you'll all pop up and say hello. So hello to everybody. Right, let me show you what it is that I have been making. So it comes like this. I've used this new pelmet stuff. You know the stuff that Gail was talking about when she was here last. We got a roll. Our roll is not the short one that Gail had, which was 30 centimetres. We've had the 90 inches one. No, 90 centimetres one. Because it's not as wide as wadding, and that would be 90 inches. So it must be 90 centimetres. Old school me, you see. So it's on the website. It's an S80 if you're looking for it. It's really cool to play with. So this is what I made. Okay, so we are oh, it'd be nice to see you, Helen, if you do pop in. So this is what I've made. There's still a few things that I would change, but we'll change those as we go. All right, so I'm not going to lose this in a hurry. It's nice and bright, isn't it? So we're making this. There's 3 pockets for you to put needles in. There's a pad for you to stick pins or needles in. Okay, it's got wadding underneath the felt, and then there's a little pocket here where you can put a piece of paper, which you can, you know how we all, you might be sewing something and then you want a top stitch needle. So you take your normal needle out and put the top stitch one in. But neither of them have been in the machine long enough for you to throw away. And then you can't, if you just put it into your pincushion, you can never remember whether that's the universal one or whether it's the top one. So here you'd be able to write on it, and I've done it so that you can change it. Okay, as it is, I think that could do with being maybe that's one thing that we could change. So we are I've done that so that you can slip that in and out, so you can change it, write whatever you like. I mean, it could be that you've got pins in there or whatever. So without further ado, we're going to have a look at this, the pelmet stuff. Now I've made this 15.5. Now I have a 15.5 by 15.5 square ruler, so I started with that because it was the biggest ruler I had, and then decided that 15.5 was too wide. But you can make these any width that you want. I didn't put the pattern on, but the pattern will be on when I get back. You can make this width any width that you like. but just follow the same sort of rules. Okay, so I found the middle of my stabilizer, and then I measured 1/2 inch on either side. Now the whole point of this is that when you fold it all up, that extra inch there, with not putting anything in it, is going to give you that width, you know, a bit like in crochet where you do that chain at the beginning of to lift it. That's what this is your chain. Okay, so it when you've got it all full of different things in it, when you folded it, you could have the equivalent of 4 needle cases stacked. Okay, so the idea is for that. And then I folded one end in to meet the first line, okay, and folded that in to meet that line, like that. All right, so that was what my measurements were. So taking a piece of fabric, okay, I've cut it slightly bigger. All right, this is going to be my inside fabric. I've cut this slightly bigger so that it's all right. I just suddenly thought I've cut it so that I think that one is going to go the wrong way around, but never mind. I've cut it so it's slightly bigger all the way round, so with your sewing, but we'll trim it down afterwards. So if you fold your fabric in half so that you find your middle line, all right, you'll find your middle, and then we're going to match up your middle with the middle of this, all right, so that it lines up somehow. Now if you leave it folded and put it on there, set like that, okay, like that, and then fold it out and pin it in place. So there you go, like that. Just like that. Okay, and I'm going to pin that there. I'm going to turn it round and pin it there. Because I'm not actually going to sew in that bit. So that will hold it in place while we're fiddling around with it. Okay, now we're going to mark the lines. Alright, so I know that I want one line about there, like that, and I know that my piece of pelmet thingy finishes there. Alright, so I've marked that line. You're going to put your fabric, as you can see, I've put it right sides up. Alright, we're going to sew straight onto this. So you want to put that there, like that, and then we'll just mark that last bit there. Now that's the easiest way of doing it without having to do any measurements. I mean, I've put measurements on the pattern, but if you're going to start with, I mean, you could probably do this with wadding as well. It's going to be, but it's not going to be very stiff. I think if I was going to do it with wadding, I would stabilize my fabric. Okay, so we've marked that through there. The only other one that I would mark would be that one, I think, to know where we're going to because you're going to want to sew on that after. There we go. Okay, that looks about right. Now, do we all know how to make your edging, your binding? So with this, I've taken bits of vinyl. Okay, now it's quite a thick vinyl, so it's a tidy thick piece. All right, so you want two at, I've cut them at 11.5 wide, so they'll be wider than my piece of pelmet stabilizer, but we'll trim it off afterwards. But I wanted to make sure that it didn't matter if it wasn't dead on central, because it gave me a bit of leeway. And I've taken my fabric, oh there we are, and I've cut a 2.5 inch strip, and I have folded it in half, just like we would to make bias. Folded it in half, pressed it, and then brought my two pieces in like that, and then folded it back over, just like you would with a handle, or if you were. So I then slopped my vinyl in, and I've given it a nice edge. Okay, so you want two at 2.5 inches wide and one at 2 inches wide, because some of your packets are bigger than others. All right, so we've done that. You also need to have another length, which is 1.5 inches wide of the same fabric that you've edged in, and you're going to fold this into 3. So you're going to fold in, and then fold lengthways and fold your edges in, and then fold the other one. It doesn't have to be exact, but you don't want any raw edges showing, so that when it goes on it looks like that and it lies quite flat. If we'd have done it like this one, but I want to be able to still fit my vinyl in like that. Okay, like that, just to finish it off. Now this vinyl is quite a sturdy vinyl compared to some of the others that we've bought. You could probably get away with not having to edge it, but it's going to catch and fold if you don't. You need 2 lengths of that at 11.5, and you're going to want a piece of wadding at 10.5 wide and 5 long, and then you're going to fold that in half like that. And then you want a piece of felt. Now I think what made my felt, I wanted the bright green. Should probably have picked a different colour this time. I wanted the bright green, and I want it to just be a little bit bigger than my wadding. So my wadding will need trimming off, because my felt was a certain size. Okay, so I made my wadding just that bit smaller than my felt, and as we're going to sew all the way around, it's not going to matter what size it is. Okay, so I've just made my felt a little bit bigger. So we're going to make it 3 inches, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 inches, and then we'll have another look at it when we put it in after. Okay, you're with me so far. Makes a change from doing crochet, doesn't it? Now we're going to put our outside fabric to one side for now, and we are going to take our measured piece of palmet, okay, and we're going to start at the bottom with a 2.5 inch finished vinyl. We're going to put it on this line here, okay, at the bottom. Now you can't pin it because you don't want holes in your vinyl, so we need to clip it, and I can't find Sarah's clips. There's a tin of them somewhere. Nope, can't see her clips anywhere. I only need one really. There we are. There's a couple there. So you can either fold your fabric under, and that would be how you would hold it in place, or we're just going to this would be one reason for making it the same width. It'd be easier to I can't get this to go right. Okay, I'll trim it afterwards. Okay, all I'm doing is lining it up with my bottom line here. Okay, so we're going to take it to the machine, and box of clips is on the grey table, and that would have been my next place to look, so we are going to go over. I'm going to change my my foot. Now if you had a Teflon foot, which is the white ones, because you're going to be sewing on the vinyl, that's always a good idea. So let's put it onto there. Right, are we there? So, okay, so foot up, and I'm just going to sew on the edge. So just pick a point on your needle, on your foot. Now we're going to cover this one with our binding. Okay, now take your stitch. Oh, there isn't one. There's no camera. We'll go back to that one because there's no camera. I don't know whether it's pointed in the right place for you now. If not, have a look at Sarah's pretty quilt and just listen to me warble on. So I'm taking it about 1/8 of an inch from the end of the vinyl.
There you go. Can you see now, guys?
Oh. I put it back onto that one.
Ah, right.
I put it onto that one. They don't need to.
That's right. You carry on sewing.
Yeah?
I'll just.
Okay.
I'll clamp it in.
We're just putting the thing. I didn't notice it wasn't there, and then I suddenly thought.
It's not that I moved it because I was sewing big stuff and quilting, and it was getting in my way, and I forgot to put it back on.
Oh, let's move the iron out of the way. Now, I was really impressed with this pelmet stuff. I think I would be able to do quite a bit more with it. So, I'm going along here.
There you go.
There we go. Thank you very much. What am I doing? I'm cutting it. I'm lifting. It's not very straight.
Back to 3. There you go.
Thanks, honey. So where are we now?
You're on 3.
We're on 3.
There.
All this technology. So I've gone and sewn this on here. You want to be just on the thing. I'm a bit high over here, but that's probably when I looked at Sarah. And I've taken the stitch up a bit, okay, because you're sewing onto the vinyl. However, this stitch here is your 2.5, okay, and I've managed to go through 4 layers of fabric and the vinyl with my 2.5, and it worked quite well. Don't look at my tension on my machine because it's absolutely appalling. It's roughly straight, okay, you just put the bigger ones at this end, and then you're going to take your shorter length, your 2 inch, and you're going to line it up with that one there. All right, and we're going to sew this one down. Okay, so we're going to sew this one down now. Now we've got enough of a width there that I could probably pin that on the end, because I'm going to actually cut that bit off. So if you give yourself enough, but you can see what I mean about it leaves holes in the vinyl. So if I pin that and then keep an eye on moving it as I'm sewing. Right, let's give this a go. Number 4. And so we're back over here. So this is your Teflon foot. Can you see the thing? Mine's slightly different. I've got a roller foot, which I used yesterday. So I'm just checking. It's very difficult to show you the vinyl. I'm checking that the vinyl is against here. Oh, we're not doing that. We're going to put one of these on it. Okay. Now the one that we folded in 3, I'm going to slot that on first. Okay. So I'm taking my thing and checking that I've got it around the right way. And I'm going to tuck that in there, right, like that. Oh, that's my outside. It's alright, I'm getting all confused here. I can't do that. Why can't I do that? Why wouldn't that work? Okay, so I'm going to tuck that in there, and then I'm going to sew on top of that. Okay, hang on. I need another hand. I could do with a third hand here. So I'm going to put a clip on this to hold this on. Oh, like that. I don't want to go that way. Okay, so I'm going to sew this onto here. Okay, like this. I should have changed the thread. So we're just sewing just keeping this as flat as possible, and if I'd have put navy thread in, it would look even better. So you're just making sure it's all slotted in as you're going. So did you all have a nice Easter? Karen, are you okay? My mum was saying there's a lot of floods in South Africa. Are you alright? You haven't been flooded out? So if we come to the end there, we're gonna just cut it there, and then we're going to then sew it down as well on the bottom. And like I said, it would have been nicer if I'd have changed it to a navy, but you'll get the picture. Okay, so we're just sewing that in place here, and that just covers the end of your plastic, of your vinyl, because if you see on this one, it would catch. If it was just sitting there, you'd probably catch it each time. Okay, so where are we? So we've sewn these two down. All right, we're going to trim this off like this. Okay, like that. Okay, so you've got your two pockets, which will get held down when we put the binding on at the end. All right, so you have, now I saw a packet somewhere, so your big ones here will fit that one. All right, now you need to measure before we no, we'll do that afterwards. So like I say, that would have looked nicer if I'd have done that in navy. You want to put your third piece up here. So you're going to slot this around like that. Let's put a magic clip on there, like that. And you're just going to put this on here. And again, we're going to sew on here, but you're just going to put the top one this time. All right, we're just going to sew the top. See where we've got two lines here? This time we're just going to sew this top one, because what we're going to do with the other piece of plastic is we're going to go that way. We're going to be able to tuck it under, which will keep it neat and hopefully protect it. Getting your hair done. Nice. I want to have my hair done. I want to do something different with it, but I have no idea what I want done. Right, I'm going to move this over a bit. Okay, so we're going to go back in and we're going to sew this down like this. Okay. So like I say, we're just doing the one this time. Now you want to keep making sure that your bit of plastic is still sitting in your binding. Now I'm sure there are plenty of other ways of doing this. We could have made fabric pockets. You don't need to use the vinyl. You could make fabric pockets. I thought about doing it so it was all concertinaed, but maybe that's another project for another day. So I'm just going along here like this, right to the end. There we go. And you've got this flap here. Okay, your next bit, chop that off like that. So your next bit is going to be, you've got another bit of plastic vinyl somewhere on the floor where you store all of these, and you're going to just tuck it in like that. Okay, so you're just going to tuck it under like that. Now your bit of wadding is going to fit just up from, yeah, with the vinyl you can see what's in the pocket. That's one of the reasons I went for it. Plus the fact, vinyl, it's a lot more versatile than you think it's going to be. So I've now put my wadding. It's not quite on this line, and it's not quite hitting this, the end of the vinyl. Okay, you want it positioned in the middle-ish. All right, in the middle-ish, and we're then going to work out the size, properly work out the size of this. So we're going to be sewing it. I want to sew it on the vinyl so that it holds this vinyl down. Okay, so there's the end of my vinyl. So I need it. Here's my pen. You can feel your vinyl. I'm going to want it about there, I would say. Now, let's just trim that bit off there. Make sure it's all straight. Now yesterday I used pinking shears. Just, they were to hand. Okay, so you're going to centre that over it, alright, so that there's enough all the way round. And we're going to pin that in place on either end, like that. Now it won't matter if you're slightly over. Okay, so we're just pinning that down like that. We'll be taking that out now. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to sew all the way round. Okay, now you can spray base that, which will hold it in place a little bit more as well. So I'm going to go down here. You could put a decorative stitch on this. There's no reason why you couldn't do that. And you can see why you would spray base this, wouldn't you? So to keep it in place. See, you think, oh, it'll save time if I don't do it. It doesn't. Going along here, and see what we're going to do. We're just going to go round it in a square, rectangle. Lift, turn. So I saw my girlies for the first time in ages this weekend. We had a bit of an Easter egg hunt and had lunch, and then we played games, and it was nice to see them. They've been away for a week, and of course I had COVID, so I didn't see them all the time that I was doing that. So it was lovely to catch up with them all. We saw my son last weekend, and I did see him for half an hour this weekend, but they had Easter at Ellie's house. They do Easter big. Bigger than we do anyway. So there we go. And the nice thing about this is most of your cutting, you know, when you're cutting it off like that, it's going to end up underneath and you're going to cover that. So there we go. We're nice and neat for that. So we've got our pockets. This one now will flip out like that, and you can slot your piece of paper with whatever you want to write on there. You know, you could just write, this is my machine needle pocket, keep your hands off. Okay, I think we're about right now. I've put the pockets on. I'm running out of bits of stuff, so I think we're all right. We're getting there. So now you're going to turn it over. I'm going to put a bit of spray based on this. Okay, so we're just going to put a little bit of that, like that, and then I'm going to lay this one on top. No, we were going to trim that first. You need to trim that first. So, which is going to be difficult now because I spray basted it. So you want to trim it to be the same size as your pelmet stabilizer. Like that. All the way round. Just like that. Got bits stuck to it now. Like this. So we're gearing it up for the retreat, which is this weekend. So it's Sunday to Tuesday, this one, because of course it's wedding season again now, and the weekends are all taken up by weddings in the hotel that we use. Sarah's on her Chanda this week. I'm sure she'll tell you more about it tomorrow. Right, so this one now will go on here. Alright, now you can see that this one is also bigger, but there's a reason for that. So we've got it overhanging. It's not really straight, is it? I don't think the fabric's straight when I cut it. So we're putting that in there, and we're now going to pin that again. Okay, so there it goes through there. And we also want a bit of ribbon, right? And your ribbon needs to be just a little bit longer than your piece of fabric, which you can cut down. It's better to have it too long than too short. Okay, and you're going to lay that underneath this little pile, because we want to sew it in place as we do this next lot of stitching. Okay, nearly done. It's such a quick little make. Okay, so what we want to do is make sure that these get pinned. Use different pins, so where are we? Let me turn that over like that. You need to pin that to it. Right, you're going to lay it like that. There's our middle bit. There. So you want to pin this in place like that. Okay, Whipping it out of the way. We're not going to catch it. Alright, so and now we're going to sew down these lines. Just normal stitching down those lines. Alright, so nearly there. Yes, it's to pin needles in, and what you would do, Karen, is put the little bit above it will flap in order for you to be able to write into it if you want to. So we're going to take that down, and we could put the other foot back on. Like this. Okay. We might run out of bobbin. Right, so you're going to follow the line right along on either side of your middle piece. Remember the 1/2 inch lines that we made? So you just want to put stitching down there, which just helps it with your orientation and holds it together, because at some point you've got to hold it together. Turn it round, and hopefully our ribbon is flat underneath, like that. Okay. And then we're going to bind it, and we're going to bind it from the back, which I know some people do their quilts like it. It's something that I've never done before, but I thought it would lay flat. One of the suggestions that Sarah and I came up with was to bag it out, but bagging it out means that you've got to scrunch your pelmet stuff up, and I thought, well, is there an easier way? And this is what I came up with. So if you measure an inch, let's cut this an inch a minute. Can't remember what I wrote in the pattern. Right, depending on how big you want your binding to be, depends on how much you cut off. I think if we cut 3/4 of an inch all the way round, okay, so we would cut this 3/4 of an inch all the way around. I think that was about right. I think I went with 3/4 of an inch because that's all I had to play with when I was making it. So I'm lining it up with my 3/4 inch and then just trimming it off along here. Okay. Like that. Like that. There. All the way round. And then what you're going to do from this point is you want to fold your corner up like this. Then you want to take 1/4 of an inch from that fold. See where I've folded it up over like that, and then from that 1/4 of an inch, from there you're going to cut 1/4 of an inch. I think this was how it was done, like that. Let's do this edge. So I'm going to take it up, make a fold, and take 1/4 of an inch off from that fold, like that. So when you fold this, you're going to fold it in till it almost touches the edge, the inside, right? and you're going to either iron or finger press it. So let's do this side as well, like that, all the way round, so that when you get to this corner, I can't remember how it's done now, this should fold itself into maybe you need a bit more of this. I think my edges are raw because I've never done this, and I looked at it up on YouTube. It probably needs a little bit more than that. So if you're sewing along, right, so you're going to fold these up like this so that they'll meet in a mitre. So I think you need a little bit more so that you can fold it underneath. Getting in a bit of a pickle now, like this, and clip it. Fold it under like that and fold it up. And if you had more of a fold here, that would stay under for you to have a neat mitre. Alright, so we didn't cut the others, did we? Should we try it with a bit of an extra? Like that. So, if you fold that up like that, you're going to need to take some of it off. So if we just take the end off, fold that like this, and fold that in there, and then all you're going to do is turn it up all the way round, clip it or pin it in places that you can, and you will then be able to fold that to there, that to there, and that bit go up. I'm finding it so that goes up. I'm finding it very difficult with my fingers, but you get the picture, don't you? Like that, not like that. Fold that over. If you use a bit of starch and iron it carefully, then it'll all stay under. And then you will end up with a corner like that, which is not too bad. That one was not too bad. So it'll fold over, and I'm darned if I'm going to let it beat me. Like that. So you'll end up with a corner. Okay. Oh, the bit that I forgot. Before you put the back on, now I sewed mine by hand, these bits here, but you could do it by machine. If you do it before you put the back on and sew it on, you can measure your needle cases. Okay, when you're putting it in, remember that you're going to sew some of it down. You work out where you want, and I would put a couple of stitches back and forth there, so they're not going to fall out. Okay, I've said measure 2 inches, but you might not need 2 inches on some of the smaller ones, but you'll need more on the bigger ones. Okay, now I sewed mine by hand because I hadn't thought of that by the time I'd finished, and you don't want the little marks on the back, so I would do it before you put your backing on. There you go. I've been talking for nearly an hour now. Do you get the picture? The pattern will go up on the website if you wanted to have a go at one. I thought it was quite cute. Thank you for joining us. Sarah will do the draw tomorrow. She'll be here at lunchtime tomorrow, not doing the quilt along in the evening because she'll be driving tomorrow. So those of you hoping for quilt along, that will be next week when we get back from the retreat, I'm afraid. So you've got another week to get up to date before she gets on it. And I think next week was supposed to be the crochet along, but we won't be doing a Tuesday. So I'll do it Thursday instead. Okay. So you're welcome, Karen. We will see you. Sarah will see you tomorrow, and then she's on her Chanda, and they've got a new channel which Sian did do a post about. So she's on 7 and 12 on the normal Create and Craft channel, but there's also one at 10 o'clock on a secret channel, but Sian's told you all about that, so it's no longer a secret. Sarah will tell you more about it tomorrow, and I'll see you next week. Right, I've got to move the iron because otherwise I'll burn myself. So you take care, and we'll see you soon. What have I done? Press the button. Bye.